please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
A very good morning. Welcome to Power Breakfast. We are in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Nigel D'Souza, and with me is Anisha Jain. Hi, Anisha. Good morning. Today we've got a packed session in terms of earnings. It's going to be earnings, and GST. That's going to be the word as well early this morning.
Well, yes, it looks like just the news flow in terms of positive comments keeps on coming in for the Indian market. Looks like the bull market is here to stay. But first up, let's run through the top headlines at this point.
And Anisha, you know, before we get to the headlines, I think this is your final Power Breakfast before you head off for your wedding leave. So all the best from the entire Power Breakfast team.
Thank you so much for that, Nigel. Hope that I come back all happy and gay with that. But yeah, first up the top headlines. Wall Street reverses gains to end lower with the Dow dropping nearly 100 points. Even though the House approves the stopgap spending bill to keep the government open, Democrats appear ready to stop the bill in the Senate. Asia trades with minor gains in opening trade.
दोनों को इंटीग्रेट करके श्री नंदन नीलेकनी ने एक डिटेल प्रेजेंटेशन काउंसिल को दिया कि उसमें से जो बेस्ट पॉसिबल ऑप्शन है काउंसिल उसमें से ले.
The 25th GST Council meets sees Nandan Nilekani, Sushil Modi, Kumar Modi and GSTN Chief Prakash Kumar makes presentations on simplifying the return filing process. However, a decision will be taken after further deliberation.
The new rates for these will all come into force from the 25th of January.
The GST Council revises rates for 29 goods and 59 categories of services. Fertilizer-grade phosphoric acid, drip irrigation sprinklers and confectionery rates are revised from 28% to 12%. Decision on real estate and petroleum products deferred.
15 states have said that they will also start on the same day the intra-state e-way bill.
Finance Minister stresses on the rollout of anti-tax evasion measures and says GST laws will be amended for greater enforcement, adds that the e-way bill will be a great help in this, and 15 states are ready for even intra-state rollout from the 1st of February.
While in earnings reported, Bharti Airtel comes out with a mixed performance in the third quarter. Net profit and margins beat expectations, riding on its Africa numbers, but average revenues per user sees a sharp fall.
And it's earning rush on the Lal Street today, with 6 companies off the Nifty 50 all set to report their quarterly earnings. Strong earnings are expected from HDFC and Kotak Bank, but a mixed set of earnings are likely from IT giants, HCL Tech as well as Wipro. Watch out for Reliance Industries. It's likely to report a rise of close to around 11% in its consolidated revenues, while FMCG major ITC is expected to report a weaker quarter. Well, Asian markets are trading mostly in the green despite a weak handover that we saw from Wall Street. The Japanese index, in fact, is trading with a gain of close to around 0.25%. Now it's trading with a gain of around 0.4%. So good going over there. The Kospi was more or less flattish. That's trading, I think, with a bit of a positive bias the last time I checked. So let's get the Kospi up for you on the screen. And you pull up the Straits as well. That, in fact, I think that was doing a relative underperformance in early morning trade. In fact, that's as flat as can be. So fair to say that the Asian markets, they have opened up in the green, and that would mean that the SGX Nifty as well will indicate a bit of a positive start. 15 to around 20 point bump up is what we could brace ourselves for.
Okay, so it's a green across Asia, and that despite the US market retreating from the record levels as concern over government shutdown looms. Dow fell around 97 points while the S&P 500 ended with marginal losses. The Congress needs to pass a spending bill by the end of the day today to avoid a government shutdown. CNBC's Hampton Pearson gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
For CNBC TV18, I'm Hampton Pearson. U.S. markets finishing in the red today. The Dow falling 97 points, the S&P off by 4, the Nasdaq losing 2 points. U.S. jobless claims, meanwhile, hit the lowest level in 45 years after falling more than expected last week. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits came in at a seasonally adjusted 220,000, the lowest level since February of 1973. 20 cities remain in contention for Amazon's second U.S. headquarters. Months after 238 cities placed bids, the e-commerce giant unveiling its list of finalists for the new location, including Columbus, Ohio, Atlanta, Miami, and New York. Most names on the short list are in the South, East, and Midwest, far from the company's first Seattle headquarters. Amazon will make his final decision later this year. And Intel is confirming that patches for the Spectre and Meltdown security flaws are crashing systems and causing computers to randomly restart. Intel's Navan Chenoy wrote in a post Wednesday that the company is working toward finding the root cause of the issue. That's the action from the U.S. markets. Back to you in Mumbai.
Okay, thank you, Pearson, for that. But on that note, let's also get in some opinion coming in from global experts on what's the road ahead for the U.S. markets.
I think for equity markets, the key thing is going to be base rates. So less important what happens to the 10-year, because I struggle to see an environment where the 10-year yield rising to somewhere, even if it gets to 3.25%. I don't think that's going to cause problems for equity markets. The concern would be once you start to get base rates to the upper bound of the Fed funds at somewhere near 3%. And I think we're not going to get there this year. So that should still be an attractive opportunity set for equity investors. But once you look into 2019, let's say we get interest rates in the US to around 2.5 by the end of this year, well, then clearly that becomes a more difficult question for 2019.
Usually you would think that 9 years into this bull market, especially after the last 2 years, that the retail sort of investor would be chasing this, and I don't see any evidence of it.
Yeah, I mean,
so that tells me that this market can keep going. This is still a market that a lot of people are not participating in, so therefore you're not really going to get the dip to buy, because everyone is waiting to either short vol or buy the market. And then when you do get the dip and it's real and it's fundamental, then nobody wants to buy it anymore. So this buy the dip notion is only as good as it seems until it actually happens.
Well, it was a mixed close in terms of European markets. We had the Japanese DAX that outperformed yesterday. It gained more than 0.5%. The FTSE was a relative underperformer. That ended with a cut of close to around 0.3%. And in fact, if you take a look at the peripheral indices, the Spanish as well as the ATEX, both of them ended with cuts of close to around 0.5% approximately. Also keep an eye out on the emerging markets. We should get the Brazilian as well as the Russian index up for you on the screen. They had a more or less mixed finish yesterday. The Russian index, that was the big outperformer. That ended with a gain of close to around 1%.
Okay, let's shift focus to the currency space then. The dollar holds steady against a basket of major currencies after falling in the previous session, while the greenback drifted lower versus the Japanese yen.
Okay, then in the world of commodities and crude oil prices ease, supported by a record drawdown of US crude stockpiles.
And from the precious metal space, gold prices edge higher after hitting their lowest in nearly a week as dollar remains on the back foot. Well, back home on the Wall Street, it was a volatile second half of trade. The benchmark indices gave up the morning gains, but the Sensex still managed to close 178 points in the green, while the Nifty closed above the 10,800 mark for the first time ever. The mid-caps, however, underperformed, with the index witnessing the biggest fall in the last 4 months. But to tell us the cues that are staggered for the day today, Mangalam joins us. Mangalam, good morning. Tell us, how does the trade setup look like?
A large part of it is exactly what you said, Anisha. You know, if you take a look at the Nifty, we did see a sell-off from the high point of the day, about 80-85 points from the high point is what we gave up on the Nifty, but managed to hold on to that 10,800 mark. And that is primarily because if you take a look at the contribution chart, it was the HDFC Twins ITC doing a bit of a batting for the Nifty and saving it from the blushes. But no such batsman came in for the mid-cap index, and there we saw a bit of a free fall, near 2% cuts. As you said, the largest largest that we've seen in the last 4 months. So a couple of stocks that fell, the likes of Just Dial, Adani Power, Reliance Communications, JP Associates, all of them fell anywhere between 12 to 15% from the high point of the day. That's the kind of a week that it has been itself. Over the last 4 trading sessions that we've seen in this week, the mid-cap index has underperformed the Nifty at least on 3 occasions, and on 1 occasion there was a mild outperformance, nothing too much. And in doing so, what the mid-cap index has done is erased all the outperformance that it had prior to this week. So this month so far, while the Nifty and the Sensex are up anywhere between 2.5% to 3.5%, the Nifty Bank, that one really did well, up 4% for this month. The mid-cap index, that one's absolutely flat, underperforming. Today's big Q will be the number of results that are coming in. You know, nearly a third of the frontline index, the Nifty, reports its numbers today, right from the big boy, HDFC Bank, Reliance, ITC, we have Kotak, and then a couple of these IT stocks. We have Wipro and HCL Tech. Together, they account for nearly 28.5% of the weight on the index. Yesterday, we had positive flows coming in from the FIIs, 1,895 crores. One would believe that this is to do with a lot of delivery buying that we saw in the likes of HDFC Twins, Infosys and ICICI Bank. But remember, from the futures space, the Nifty Jan futures has entered into a discount, but we saw a bit of a sell-off in both the 10,800 put and the 10,900 call. Next week is the expiry. It could be anyone's game as far as this range is concerned.
Okay, all right, Manglam, but what about stocks we're looking out for in today's session?
A lot of stocks, Nigel. In fact, you start off with a lot of the results, mid-cap results that will be in focus today. We have Jubilant Food, Kansai Nerolac, the likes of NIIT Technologies, PC Jewelers, all of them reporting their numbers, trader favorite names. So we'll watch out for that, not just the frontline results. Bharti Airtel, they came out with results yesterday post-markets. Ronit tells me that the India performance was a little dilly-dally, while the African performance did fairly well. So that is something we'll be watching out for. Then, last evening, a whole host of changes came by in the GST rate reduction. So we understand it's a positive for drip irrigation systems, pesticides, old and used cars, construction of metro and monorails, as well as diamond and precious stones and amusement parks. Let's see how much of that is baked in already, or how much does this move the needle, but definitely a sentiment mover. GST in cigarette filter rods has been increased from 12 to 18%. Again, a negligible number as far as the amount is concerned, but let's see what message it sends out to the street. Apart from that, we got numbers coming in from Cyient. The net profit actually came in lower by 21% despite a top line growth of 2%. Deepak Nitrite, we had a revenue growth of 5% out there, so keep an eye out on that. Keval Kiran Clothing, strong operational performance, nearly 82% improvement on the EBITDA. And Jubilant Industries, their losses narrowed, 2.2 crore versus a loss of 5 crore earlier. So these are the stocks which will be in focus. Apart from that, in the news, we had Tech Mahindra making a $15 million acquisition, small, but we'll keep an eye out on that. Torrent Pharma, they too have made an acquisition, acquired Biopharm Inc., which is a generic pharma and over-the-counter drugs company. We had a couple of bulk deals. Swan Energy has approved a QIP of 1,000 crores. And Star Cement, State Bank of India mutual fund, has bought 3.7% stakes, but on the selling side have been the promoter entity. So we'll watch out for that.
Well, the GST Council met for the 25th time. Now, 3 presentations were made before the Council on simplifying the return filing process. Infosys Chairman Nandan Nilekani also made a presentation. However, a decision will be taken on the proposed changes after further deliberation. Second, the Council decided to change rates of as many as 29 goods and 59 categories of services.
Okay, also the Finance Minister stressed on anti-tax evasion measures and said that e-way bills rollout will help curb tax evasion. Another CNBC TV18 exclusive news break that was confirmed was regarding the IGST collection. The GST Council decided to divide the 35,000 crore rupees in IGST collections between the centre and the states. And last but not the least, the Finance Minister also said that in its next meeting, the Council may consider inclusion of petroleum products as well.
श्री सुशील मोदी ने अपनी डिस्कशंस जो हुई उसके बेसिस पे अपना प्रेजेंटेशन दिया. श्री पांडे और जीएसटीएन की तरफ से श्री नवीन श्री प्रकाश कुमार ने 2 ऑल्टरनेटिव प्रपोजल्स थे जो समझाए और उन दोनों को इंटीग्रेट करके श्री नंदन नीलेकनी ने एक डिटेल प्रेजेंटेशन काउंसिल को दिया कि उसमें से जो बेस्ट पॉसिबल ऑप्शन है काउंसिल उसमें से ले. Council also reaffirmed its decision that on the 15th of January, on a trial basis, the e-way bill system has begun, and on the 1st of February, interstate e-way bill loading will be necessary. 15 states have said that they will also start on the same day the intrastate e-way bill.
Okay, we also caught up with Manager Sarna, the chairperson of Central Board of Excise and Customs. Let's listen into what she had to say.
Ma'am, very clearly, return simplification was something that everyone was waiting for to come from this council meeting. Where are we and what are the future suggestions that are still in work in progress when it comes to return simplification?
So, as you heard the Honourable Finance Minister already speaking about return simplification, it was one of the key aspects that had been discussed by the council earlier and the need for it. So thereafter, a committee was formed specifically to look at simplification of returns. It was headed by Dr. Pandey, CEO of GSTN, and officers from centre and state were on board. And the intention was to look at the existing system of GSTR 1, 2, 3. 3B was a temporary thing which we are carrying on till the 31st of March. But 1, 2, 3 was the pinch point. So it was decided to relook at it. Some suggestions did come up from the officers after a discussion, and it was discussed in the officers meeting as well. And thereafter it was decided to bring it here. There were some options. It was difficult to take a complete decision on it, so both options were brought. But it was also felt that in the meantime, Mr. Nilekani himself had come out with a proposal, which was something like a merger between 1 and 2, but with some improvements. So there are some fine improvements, and each one of these has to be seen as to how good is it to introduce this. Intention basically being to try to go on the path of bringing only one return and having everything that you need, which is important in that return.
So, ma'am, revenue protection is something which is concerning both centre and the states. Where are we today in terms of revenue collections, and what are the ways that how we can now plug revenue leakages to improve revenue collections both for centre and state?
Well, you've already seen the collections. We put them out and we give a press release every month, month on month. There have been a dip, as you know, from the starting point to a little later. But I won't say that it's too bad as a matter as well, because you've started giving out refunds, so that hit you will have to take. And transitional credit, people are now using their input tax credit which they had, so there will be less cash payment and more utilization of credit. So this perhaps could have been something expected. But as far as improvement is concerned, as you heard the Finance Minister, we are looking at IGST's 35,000 or so to be divided between centre and state to help the cause. And as you said, in the next 2 months, what do we expect? How do we improve? I think it's for the first time that everybody, I mean including me, who's been always shying away from doing enforcement, is coming in saying we need to do it. And therefore, as you know, the e-way bill is going to come into effect on the 1st of February. And we are genuinely hoping that between some kind of cross-checking on utilization of input tax credit and transitional credit, the e-way bill and the proper compliance to the e-way bill, all these measures will start giving effect definitely.
Well, on that note, let's listen into what Thomas Isaac, the Finance Minister of Kerala, had to say on the decisions that were taken at the meeting.
There was no discussion whatsoever on petrol and diesel.
So what about on real estate, sir? Discussions were there? What was on the agenda?
There was no discussion on the real estate. I think if you
so return simplification,
a very divisive issue, there were states like Kerala which would never accept that.
So what about e-way bill, sir? A lot of states are yet to now look into the e-way bill system, sir.
E-way bill will become a reality from February 1st.
So return simplification is something that we are yet to see. Taxpayers are facing a lot of concerns.
Definitely returns are going to be simplified, and the decision will be made in the video conference that is to be held within a fortnight.